Most people think of their comfort zone as a warm blanket, a soft cocoon that shields them from the chaos of the outside world. But sometimes that cocoon becomes a coffin. This is the story of Daniel Hayes, a man who thought safety was found in routine, in predictability, in never stepping beyond the boundaries of his home. He thought comfort would protect him. He never realized it was killing him. Daniel Hayes was 38 years old, and if you asked him, he'd say he was content. Not happy, not thriving, just content. Every morning he woke up at 6:30 sharp. He brewed the same brand of coffee, ate the same toast with the same strawberry jam, and sat in silence at the same chipped kitchen table. His home was small, a modest one-story house tucked into a quiet cul-de-sac. The curtains were always drawn, letting in just enough light to keep things dim. Daniel liked it that way. Too much sunlight made him feel exposed, as though the world outside could see right through him. After breakfast, he dressed in his gray suit, straightened his tie, and left for his insurance firm. He had worked there for 14 years, filing claims, answering phones, and occasionally listening to the stories of people who had lost everything. He never envied them. Instead, he pitied them, pitted anyone who strayed too far outside the predictable borders of safety. Every evening, Daniel returned home, microwaved his dinner, and sank into the same dented spot on his sofa. He would watch reruns of old shows, the laugh tracks filling the silence, though he rarely laughed himself. At 10 p.m., he locked the doors, checked the windows, and crawled into bed. Day after day, month after month, year after year, Daniel's life was a circle, tight and unbroken. It was late one Tuesday night when Daniel noticed something unusual. He was halfway through his routine, microwaving a tray of meatloaf and potatoes, when the power flickered. The kitchen light dimmed, buzzed, and then steadied again. "Storm coming," Daniel muttered to himself, though the sky outside was clear. He carried his tray to the living room and sat down. But as soon as he did, he felt something strange. The cushion beside him sank, just slightly, as though someone invisible had lowered themselves into the seat. Daniel froze. He glanced to his right. Nothing. Just the dented couch cushion, pressing down as if under weight. He chuckled nervously and shifted. "Old springs," he whispered. "That's all." But when he leaned back, the cushion didn't rise again. It stayed sunken, as though his unseen guest had no intention of leaving. That night, Daniel dreamed of walls that closed in like jaws. In his dream, he stood in his living room, and the faded yellow wallpaper began to pulse like living flesh. It inched closer, pressing against him, smothering him. And in the suffocating dark, he heard it, low, dragging, and almost tender. "Stay here with me." Daniel jolted awake, gasping, sweat drenching his sheets. The clock on his nightstand read 3:12 a.m. He sat up, listening. The house was silent. But then, just as his racing heart began to slow, he heard it again. A whisper. From inside the walls. "Don't leave." His stomach dropped. He clutched the blanket to his chest like a shield, staring at the cracked ceiling above him. He didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The following morning, Daniel tried to brush it off. He dressed, went to work, filed claims, and smiled at the receptionist when she asked how his evening had been. "Quiet," he said, as always. But his thoughts gnawed at him. The dream, the whisper, the sinking cushion. When he returned home, he hesitated at the front door. For the first time in years, he didn't feel relieved stepping inside. He felt watched. The wallpaper in the hallway seemed different. It used to just curl at the corners from age, but now it looked stretched, as though something beneath it was pushing outward, straining to get through. He pressed his hand against it. The wallpaper was warm, almost feverish. He yanked his hand back, trembling. "It's just the pipes," he whispered. "Just the house settling." But even he didn't believe it. On Friday morning, Daniel left for work earlier than usual. As he stepped outside, he saw his neighbor, Mrs. Calloway, watering her plants. She was an older woman, with white hair and sharp eyes that always seemed to know more than she should. "Morning," Daniel said, forcing a smile. She studied him for a long moment before replying. "You don't look well, Daniel. How's keeping you up?" Daniel froze. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Calloway's hands trembled slightly on the watering can. "That place doesn't like when people get restless. Seen it before. Folks try to leave and, well, they don't." He laughed nervously. "You mean the neighborhood?" "No, dear." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I mean the house. Keeps you. The longer you stay, the harder it is to get out. You've been there over a decade now. That's long enough for it to attach itself." Daniel's smile faltered. "That's ridiculous." But her words followed him to work. And worse, they followed him home. That evening, Daniel made a decision. He would leave the house just for a night. Maybe check into a motel, clear his head. He needed space, air, perspective. He packed a small bag. Just clothes, toiletries, and a book. As he zipped it shut, the lights flickered again. The floor beneath him groaned, vibrating like a living thing. "Stay." The whisper was louder now, more insistent. Daniel's breath caught. He grabbed the bag and hurried to the door. His fingers fumbled with the lock, but as soon as he touched the handle, a crushing weight filled his chest. His lungs tightened. His heart pounded like it was being squeezed. He staggered back, gasping for air, the duffel bag slipping from his grip. The pressure eased only when he collapsed onto the couch, trembling. And then, in the suffocating silence, the cushion beside him sank again. "Good boy," the whisper purred. Daniel didn't leave that night. Or the next. Or the one after. Each attempt ended the same way. Chest tightening, breath stolen, legs frozen in place. The house wasn't just shelter anymore. It was a trap. And every year of routine, every night of surrender, had been another thread in the web it wove around him. His comfort zone wasn't protecting him. It was consuming him. And the longer he stayed, the more he felt it. The walls breathing in sync with him, the floorboards pulsing under his feet, the air thick with whispers that curled into his ears even when he covered them. Daniel had built his life around safety. But now, safety was his enemy. On the 7th night, Daniel sat alone in the dark, staring at the pulsing wallpaper. He realized then that leaving might not even be possible anymore. The house had grown too strong. And worse, it wasn't done with him. Because the whispers were no longer telling him to stay. They were telling him to listen. By now, Daniel Hayes had realized something dreadful. His house was no longer just a house. It breathed, it whispered, and it wanted him. But the most horrifying truth of all was this. His own fear of leaving, his endless clinging to routine, had given it power. The comfort he once cherished had become chains he could not break. And the longer he stayed, the tighter they grew. For days, Daniel tried to ignore it. He went to work, came home, ate his dinners, and sat in the same spot on the couch as always. He tried to convince himself he was imagining everything. But the whispers didn't stop. At first, they came only at night, soft and pleading. "Stay, stay with me." But soon they seeped into the daylight hours. He would be sitting at his desk at work when he heard it faintly, curling into his ear like smoke. "You don't belong here, go home." He began forgetting tasks, misplacing papers, staring blankly at computer screens while his coworkers exchanged worried glances. "Rough week?" the receptionist asked one morning, trying to lighten the mood. Daniel just nodded. He couldn't explain. If he told anyone the truth, that his house whispered to him, they'd think he'd lost his mind. But he knew he hadn't. If anything, his mind had never been clearer. That Friday evening, Daniel decided to test something. Instead of going straight home after work, he drove aimlessly through the city. The sky was painted with shades of red and orange as the sun set, and for a fleeting moment, he felt something he hadn't in years: freedom. He parked near a park and walked along the path, watching children play, couples stroll, joggers run past. He breathed deeply, savoring the fresh air. But then he felt it. that same crushing pressure in his chest. His legs grew heavy. His vision blurred at the edges. "Come home." The whisper coiled through his mind, sharper this time, more demanding. "You don't belong here." Daniel collapsed onto a bench, clutching his chest, gasping. He felt eyes on him, but when he looked up, the people nearby didn't seem to notice. They walked past as though he wasn't even there. When he finally stumbled back to his car and drove home, the pressure lifted. As soon as he stepped through the front door, the air seemed to sigh in relief. And then, from the walls, "Good boy." That night, Daniel avoided the couch. He avoided every routine he'd built. Instead, he sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the mirror across the room. But something was wrong with the reflection. At first, it looked normal. His tired face, his slumped shoulders, his rumpled shirt. But then, the reflection smiled. Daniel didn't. The smile stretched too wide, teeth too sharp, eyes gleaming with something that wasn't his own. Slowly, the reflection raised its hand, pressing its palm against the glass. Daniel sat frozen. His own hand twitched, as though compelled to mimic the gesture. Against his will. He lifted it and pressed it to the cold surface of the mirror. The glass vibrated beneath his touch. For a split second, he swore he felt flesh, warm, clammy, pressing back. He yanked his hand away, stumbling backward. His reflection only grinned wider. Then, in his own voice, it whispered, "Why do you fight me? You've always wanted to stay." The next morning, Daniel avoided his house as long as possible. He sat in his car outside, trembling, unable to go in. That's when Mrs. Calloway shuffled over, leaning heavily on her cane. "You look pale," she said softly. Daniel stared at her. "What's happening to me?" he whispered. Her eyes darkened. "I warned you, didn't I? That house doesn't let go. Not once it's claimed you." "Claimed me?" His voice cracked. "What do you mean?" She sighed, glancing at the house as though it could hear. "Years ago, another man lived there. Quiet fellow like you. Never left, never strayed. The neighbors barely saw him. Then one day he disappeared. People said he moved away, but I knew better. I'd hear the whispers too, sometimes, drifting from his windows. I think the house took him." Daniel's blood ran cold. "How?" Mrs. Calloway shook her head. "I don't know. But the more you give it, your time, your fear, your silence, the more it owns you. And once you realize you're trapped, it's already too late." That night, Daniel decided he had to leave, truly leave. Not just a motel, not just a drive. He had to get out of the house entirely. He packed everything he could into boxes, piling them by the door. Each time he carried one, the whispers grew louder, more frantic. "Don't leave me. You need me. Without me, you are nothing." The air thickened. The lights flickered violently. By the time he dragged the last box to the door, he could hardly breathe. He grasped the doorknob, turned it, and screamed. The metal burned his skin like fire. He jerked his hand back, blistered and raw. From the walls, laughter erupted. A deep, guttural sound that rattled the entire house. "You're mine, Daniel. You've always been mine." Days began to blur. Daniel lost track of time. He wasn't sure if he was eating, or if the food simply appeared before him. The TV played static no matter what channel he turned to. The clock hands spun aimlessly, no longer marking the hours. Sometimes, Daniel swore he heard voices outside, neighbors talking, children laughing, but when he opened the curtains, the street was empty. The world beyond his walls was slipping away, becoming unreal. Only the house was real now. On the 7th day, Daniel woke to find footprints leading down his hallway. Bare, wet footprints, though the carpet was bone dry. He followed them, trembling, until they stopped at the bedroom door. The door creaked open by itself, revealing the mirror. His reflection was waiting. This time it didn't just smile. It stepped forward. The glass rippled like water as the figure pressed through, dragging one leg, then another, until it stood in Daniel's room. It was him, but wrong. Its skin was pale and sagging, its eyes black voids, its grin unending. Daniel backed away, heart pounding. "Stay away from me." The double tilted its head. "Why? You created me. I'm your comfort. I'm everything you wanted. Predictable. Eternal." Daniel shook his head violently. "You're not me." The figure stepped closer, whispering in perfect unison with the house. "I am what you chose." Daniel collapsed against the wall, trembling as his double advanced. For the first time he understood the truth. His comfort zone wasn't just holding him back. It had become him. And now it wanted to replace him. The whispers swelled, filling every corner of the house, until the words were no longer suggestions but a command. Stay forever. By now, Daniel Hayes was no longer just fighting his house. He was fighting himself. His reflection had stepped out of the mirror. His double, a warped version of him born from years of surrender to routine. The house wasn't just alive. It was reshaping him, remaking him into what it wanted, something that would never leave. But Daniel wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. The figure stood inches away, its smile carved too wide, its skin slack and gray. Its eyes, black voids without pupils, reflected nothing, like empty windows looking into darkness. Daniel pressed against the wall, trembling. "You're not real," he whispered. The double tilted its head, movements jerky, puppet-like. "Not real. I'm more real than you. I am the part of you that never changes. I am the safety you begged for. I am the silence you worshipped." Its voice was Daniel's voice, but layered, distorted, like a recording played backward. "I don't want this," Daniel whispered. The double chuckled, lips stretching into a grotesque grin. "You wanted this every day you stayed. Every day you chose comfort over risk, silence over noise, routine over life. You fed me. And now I am strong." It lunged forward, its hand pressing hard against Daniel's chest. Cold seeped through his shirt, into his skin, into his bones. His legs buckled as if the strength was being drained from him. The whispering walls echoed the double's words. Stay. Daniel shoved the creature back, stumbling down the hallway. He tripped over one of the boxes he had packed days before. The cardboard was soaked, sagging, as though it had been left in water for years. He tore it open. His clothes inside were moldy, rotting, crawling with silverfish. His heart lurched. Time wasn't working normally anymore. His attempt to leave had already been erased, swallowed by the house. The double stepped forward, dragging its feet with wet, sticky sounds. Its shadow spread unnaturally long across the floor, stretching up the walls like black veins. "You can't fight me," it said. "You made me." Daniel's breath came ragged. He wanted to run, to scream, to break through the front door, but deep down he feared what was waiting outside. What if there was nothing beyond these walls anymore? The next morning, house had
Daniel
kept him
woke
too
to
long.
knocking.
Maybe the
Weak
world had
sunlight
forgotten
bled
through the
him.
curtains, and for the first time in days, he heard something that wasn't the house. He staggered to the door. Mrs. Calloway stood outside, her expression grim. "You're still here," she whispered. Daniel's voice cracked. "Please, you have to help me. It's in here with me." Her eyes darted past him, into the dim hallway behind. "I told you, Daniel. The house doesn't let go." He grabbed her arm desperately. "You knew this would happen. Tell me how to stop it." She hesitated, trembling. Then she leaned closer, her voice barely audible. "There was one man who escaped. Long before you. He said the only way out was to destroy what you've become inside those walls. Burn it. Break it. But it will fight you. Because it is you." Daniel swallowed hard, staring back at the pulsing wallpaper, the darkened hallway where his double lingered. Burn it. Destroy it. But could he destroy part of himself? Before he could ask more, Mrs. Calloway stepped back, her face pale. "I can't help you anymore, Daniel. If I stay too close, it will notice me too." She turned and hurried away, leaving him trembling in the doorway. That night, the house grew restless. The whispers weren't just words anymore, they were screams. The walls shook. The floor split with hairline cracks. The lights flared and died, leaving Daniel in suffocating darkness. And then came the footsteps. Not just one pair but many, dozens, hundreds, marching in every direction. Heavy boots on the ceiling. Bare feet slapping against the floor. Something clawing at the inside of the walls. Daniel clutched his head, rocking back and forth. Stop! Stop! The double emerged from the shadows, taller now, its limbs elongated, its grin wider. Its voice thundered in harmony with the house. You belong here. You are mine. And when you stop resisting, you will never feel fear again. Only stillness. Forever. The house wasn't content with trapping him anymore. It wanted to erase him. Daniel staggered into the kitchen, searching frantically. Mrs. Calloway's words echoed in his skull. Burn it. Break it. His shaking hands grabbed a box of matches from the drawer. He struck one, watching the tiny flame flicker. For the first time in weeks, he felt something like hope. But as he moved toward the living room, the flame extinguished. Every match he struck died instantly. The air was too heavy, too damp, as if the house itself was smothering the fire. From behind him, the double laughed. Do you really think I'd let you destroy me? You can't escape what you are. Daniel's eyes darted toward the bedroom. A mirror. That was where it had first stepped through. Maybe it was the key. He rushed inside, grabbing a heavy lamp from the nightstand. His reflection smirked at him from the glass, lips curling into that endless grin. You can't kill yourself, Daniel, it mocked. He raised the lamp and smashed it against the mirror. Shards exploded across the floor, slicing into his skin. But even in the broken fragments, the reflection lived. Dozens of tiny versions of his double smiled up at him, each one whispering in unison. Stay, stay, stay. Blood dripped from his hands as he stared in horror. Destroying the mirror hadn't freed him. It had multiplied the nightmare. The shards trembled, vibrating across the floor like living things, crawling toward him. He stumbled back, his foot slipping on glass. Pain seared up his leg as a shard embedded itself deep into his ankle. From the darkness, the double loomed. You can't destroy me, Daniel. I am you. Bleeding and limping, Daniel crawled into the hallway. But the house had changed again. The wallpaper bulged outward, splitting open to reveal faces. Dozens of pale, sunken faces pushing from beneath the surface. Some were strangers. Others looked horribly familiar. Co-workers, neighbors, people he had known but lost contact with. Their mouths stretched open in silent screams as the wallpaper absorbed them again. Daniel stumbled back, bile rising in his throat. Were these the others Mrs. Calloway spoke of? People who had lived here before him. Had the house consumed them too? The whispers grew deafening. The faces moaned. And Daniel realized with sickening clarity that if he didn't escape, one day his own face would stare out from these walls. He collapsed in the living room, clutching his bleeding ankle, tears streaking his face. The double loomed over him, its form shifting, rippling like liquid shadow. It leaned down, placing its cold hand against his chest again. Stop fighting, it hissed. The world outside never cared for you. No one called. No one came looking. Here you are safe. Here you will never be alone again. Daniel's body trembled. The weight of the hand pressed harder. His vision blurred. The house seemed to breathe in unison with him, pulling the air from his lungs. He felt himself slipping, his thoughts dissolving, merging with the whispers. Maybe the double was right. Maybe safety was better than struggle. Maybe silence was better than pain. Maybe he should just stay. As Daniel's eyelids fluttered shut, a final thought clawed through the fog. If he gave in now, he would cease to exist. He wouldn't just live in the house. He would become it. The faces in the wallpaper would be his companions. The whispers in the walls would be his voice. And his comfort zone. His endless, suffocating comfort zone would be his tomb. But the double only smiled, pressing harder against his chest, whispering with the voice of the house itself. You've already made your choice. Daniel was slipping. The house had almost claimed him. The double's hand pressed against his chest like an anchor, and his mind teetered on the edge of surrender. But somewhere in that black fog of whispers, he felt a spark of defiance. If he didn't fight back now, he wouldn't just lose the house. He would lose himself. Daniel jolted awake on the living room floor, gasping. The double loomed over him, its grin splitting wider with every breath he took. You're still resisting, it crooned. Good. The more you fight, the sweeter your surrender will be. Daniel coughed, clutching his ribs. He remembered Mrs. Calloway's words again. Burn it. Break it. Destroy what you've become. The matches hadn't worked. The mirror had multiplied the horror. But maybe there was something deeper, something binding this nightmare together. He staggered to his feet, clutching the couch for support. If you are me, he rasped, then killing you means killing everything I've let rot inside me. The double's eyes glittered like bottomless pits. You don't have the strength. You never did. Daniel limped into the hallway again. The faces in the wallpaper moaned louder, their eyes rolling in agony. He pressed his hand against the wall and felt warmth. The wallpaper pulsed beneath his palm like skin, veins writhing just below the surface. The house wasn't just alive. It was flesh. And it was his flesh. The realization sank in. The longer he stayed, the more it merged with him. Every moment of silence, every wasted day, every cowardly choice had been feeding it. The double wasn't a haunting. It was his reflection, carved into the house itself. His comfort zone hadn't been a place of safety, had been an infection. He ripped his hand away, bile rising in his throat. Blood smeared across his fingers where the wall had blistered and split. The double appeared in the doorway behind him, voice dripping like poison. You can't kill me without killing yourself. And deep down, you don't want to die. That night, as he sat in the dark kitchen clutching a blood-stained rag to his ankle, a knock echoed through the house. Daniel froze. Another knock. He limped to the front door and opened it. Mrs. Calloway stood there again, but this time she looked different. Her eyes bloodshot, her body trembling like she hadn't slept in days. You're still here, she whispered. It's stronger now, isn't it? Daniel grabbed her shoulders. Tell me what I have to do. Please. Her eyes darted nervously past him, scanning the hallway as though the house itself were listening. I shouldn't be here. But you have to understand. That house doesn't just feed on people. Creates them. Every person who lived here too long became part of it. That WC isn't a ghost. It's the part of you that surrendered years ago. It's been waiting. Daniel swallowed. Then how do I kill it? She hesitated, then pulled something from her coat pocket. A small, rusted key. She pressed it into his hand. There's a room in the basement. A room no one talks about. It's where the house started. The man who built this place, he made a bargain. He gave the house his comfort, his routine, his silence, and it gave him peace. Eternal peace. But the price never ended. Her voice broke into a whisper. You want to stop it. You have to face what's buried down there. But if you go, you might not come back. Before Daniel could ask more, her eyes widened in terror. She stepped back, glancing over his shoulder. Daniel turned. His double was standing at the end of the hallway, watching silently. When he turned back, Mrs. Calloway was gone. The key trembled in Daniel's palm as he limped to the basement door. He'd never opened it before. The air seeping from the cracks was cold, damp, heavy. He slid the key into the lock. The door creaked open, revealing a staircase that plunged into blackness. The whispers grew louder. Don't go. Stay. Every step groaned beneath his weight as he descended. The walls here weren't covered in wallpaper. They were raw, wet stone, slick with condensation. Water or something thicker dripped from the ceiling. At the bottom, he reached a narrow corridor lined with doors. Each one was sealed shut with chains. Faded names were etched into the wood. Eleanor, Thomas, Margaret, Victor. Dozens of them. He shivered. Were these the names of past tenants? Had they been sealed in here forever? At the end of the hall, one door stood open. A faint, flickering light spilled out. Inside, the basement opened into a cavernous chamber. In the center was something Daniel could barely comprehend. A writhing mass of flesh and shadow, pulsing like a colossal heart. Veins snaked from it into the walls, feeding the house above. It throbbed with every whisper. Stay. Daniel gagged, covering his mouth. The stench was unbearable, like rotting meat and mildew. And then, from the mass, something peeled itself free. His double. But larger now. Taller, monstrous. Its grin stretching from ear to ear. Its skin rippled like it was barely holding its shape. This is the root of everything, it said. The comfort you begged for. Eternal stillness. Don't fight it, Daniel. Join it. Daniel's chest heaved as he looked around. Rusted tools lay scattered on the floor. An old axe, a crowbar, a sledgehammer. He stumbled forward, grabbing the axe with trembling hands. The double laughed, spreading its arms. Do you really think you can kill me? Every swing will hurt you too. Daniel gritted his teeth. Then I'll take us both down. He swung the axe into the pulsing mass. The blade sank deep, and the house screamed. The walls shook violently. Dust raining from the ceiling. Blood, thick and black, splattered across him. The double shrieked, stumbling backward, its form flickering. But as Daniel pulled the axe free, his chest erupted with pain. A gash opened across his torso, mirroring the wound he had just inflicted on the mass. He fell to his knees, gasping. The double loomed over him, grinning. See, you and I are the same. You can't destroy me without destroying yourself. As Daniel clutched his bleeding chest, something clicked in his mind. The house had only grown stronger because he had fed it, because he had stayed, surrendered, avoided change. His double wasn't just a monster. It was his complacency, his fear, his weakness made flesh. To kill it, he couldn't just swing an axe. He had to choose. He had to finally reject the comfort he had clung to his entire life. Daniel stood, trembling, gripping the axe with both hands. Blood poured from his wound, but his voice was steady. You're right. You are me. But you're the part of me I don't need anymore. He turned the axe, not toward the mass, not toward the double, but toward himself. The double's grin faltered. No, you wouldn't. Daniel pressed the blade to his chest, over his heart. If you die with me, then so be it. But I'd rather die fighting than live as your prisoner. He raised the axe. The double screamed, rushing forward. Its form began to unravel, its body dissolving into shadows. Stop. You need me. Without me, you're nothing. Daniel roared and drove the axe into his own chest. The room exploded in light. Pain seared through him white-hot, as the house screamed louder than ever before. The walls cracked, splitting wide open. The faces in the wallpaper shrieked in unison, tearing free of their prison. The pulsing mass writhed violently, its veins snapping like cords. The double shrieked, its form twisting, warping, until it shattered into 1,000 shards of shadow that dissolved into the air. Daniel collapsed, the axe slipping from his hands. His vision blurred as the house crumbled around him, stone and timber collapsing into the void. But through the pain, through the chaos, he felt something he hadn't in years. Relief. He had chosen. He had finally broken free of his comfort zone. The house had collapsed. The double had been shattered. Daniel's final act of defiance had ripped the infection from its roots. But freedom always comes with a cost. What Daniel didn't yet know was whether he had truly escaped, or whether he had simply traded one prison for another. Daniel's eyes fluttered open. He was lying in the grass beneath an open sky. The morning sun warmed his skin. For a long, trembling moment, he just lay there, soaking it in. No whispers, no shadows, no walls pressing in on him. When he sat up, the house was gone. Nothing but an empty patch of scorched earth remained where it had once stood, smoking faintly in the breeze. He laughed, though it came out broken and raw. Somehow he had survived. He pressed a hand to his chest where the axe had struck, but instead of blood and broken flesh, there was only a scar, jagged and pale, carved across his skin. He staggered to his feet, dizzy but alive. For the first time in years he felt weightless, free. But then the unease began. The world around him seemed too still. The trees swayed, but no birds sang. The grass rippled, but there were no insects. Even the sunlight seemed strangely muted, as though filtered through glass. He walked down the dirt path that led back toward town. Each step felt heavy, slower than it should have been, as though the earth clung to his shoes. Halfway down the path he heard it. A whisper. "Stay." Daniel froze. His heart pounded as he whipped his head around. The field was empty. No house. No shadows. He shook his head violently. "Whoa. It's just in my head. Has to be." But the whisper came again. Louder. "Stay." When Daniel finally reached town, everything looked almost normal. Cars moved along the streets. People bustled along the sidewalks. But something about them was off. Every person he passed smiled at him. Wide, fixed smiles that didn't waver, didn't change. Their eyes followed him, unblinking. "Morning," one man said. His voice was flat, robotic. Daniel nodded stiffly and walked faster. The smiles grew wider the further he went. A woman carrying groceries stopped in her tracks, staring directly at him with that same unbroken grin. His stomach turned cold. He realized suddenly. He hadn't heard a single voice besides that one man's. The others just smiled. Stared. Shaking, Daniel ducked into the library, desperate for quiet. Inside, everything looked as he remembered. Rows of books, the smell of dust and paper. Relief washed over him for a brief moment. But then he noticed the windows. They didn't show the town outside. Instead, every pane of glass reflected the house. Not gone. Not destroyed. Standing tall, whole, its windows glowing faintly in the gray light. Daniel stumbled back, hitting a bookshelf. "No, no, I destroyed you." The reflection shifted. In the second-floor window, a shape appeared. His double. Smiling. Raising one hand in a slow, mocking wave. The whisper slithered through the air. "Stay. Daniel." The voice snapped him out of his spiral. He turned, and there she was. Mrs. Calloway, sitting at one of the reading tables. But she looked worse than before. Pale, frail, her hands trembling violently. "You shouldn't have come back here," she whispered. "The house. It doesn't end when you leave. You tore yourself free, yes, but the roots don't die. They spread." Daniel shook his head. "I killed it. I destroyed the root." Her eyes filled with tears. "No. You wounded it. You made it retreat. But as long as people fear change, as long as they cling to comfort, it will always have a place to grow. It's everywhere, Daniel. It's this whole town. Maybe the whole world." Daniel's throat went dry. "Then what do I do?" Mrs. Calloway's gaze hardened. "You don't stop it. You fight it. Every day. You remind yourself that the easy path is death in disguise. You survive because you chose pain over silence. Don't forget that." Before Daniel could answer, her eyes widened. She gasped, clutching her chest. Her body convulsed, then went still, her face frozen in a grotesque wide smile. Daniel stumbled back in horror. The whispers filled the library again, louder, echoing through every aisle. "Stay. Stay." The walls of the library pulsed. The shelves groaned, books falling to the floor. And then, between the rows, it stepped forward. The double. But this time it was perfect. Not twisted, not monstrous. It looked exactly like Daniel, Same eyes, same scar, same voice. It smiled softly. Why are you still running? You could rest. You could stay safe. Don't you want that? Daniel backed away, fists clenched. You're not real. You're just. I'm you, it interrupted gently. The part of you that longs for peace. You think you killed me, but I'll always be here. I am every excuse you'll ever make. Every reason you'll ever give up. You can't destroy me. Not completely. Stepped closer. The smiles of the townsfolk outside the windows pressed closer to the glass, watching. Stay, the double whispered. Just stay. Daniel closed his eyes, heart hammering. He remembered the years wasted in that house. The endless days of silence, the nights of nothingness, the comfort that had nearly killed him. He opened his eyes again, meeting the double's gaze. You're right. Can't kill you. You'll always be there. But I don't have to listen to you. The double frowned slightly. You'll come back. You always do. Daniel turned toward the door. Maybe. But not today. He pushed through the library doors into the town, ignoring the watching smiles, ignoring the whispers. Each step hurt. Each step felt heavy. But he kept walking. And with every step, the whispers faded. Daniel didn't know if he had truly escaped. He didn't know if the house or the double, or the whispers would ever really leave him. But he knew one thing for certain. His comfort zone had been his enemy. And as long as he kept walking, kept choosing discomfort, fear, and change over silence, he could keep that enemy at bay. Behind him, the whispers hissed faintly like wind in the trees. Stay. Daniel didn't turn back. He kept moving forward. Sometimes the scariest prison isn't made of walls and locks. It's the comfort we cling to, the stillness we refuse to leave. Daniel learned that safety can be the deadliest trap of all. So the next time you find yourself staying where it's easy, where it's safe, ask yourself, is this peace? Or am I just feeding the house inside me? Because once you give in, you may never get out.